Have you ever witnessed a moment that could change someone's entire life in the blink of an eye? Stick with me until the end, because this story will shock you, move your heart, and make you believe in kindness again. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories like this one. The tale begins with a girl named Alara, the only daughter of one of the wealthiest billionaires in the city, a man who owned skyscrapers, tech empires, and fashion houses, yet with all his success, he could never truly give his daughter the one thing she needed most: acceptance. Alara was 17, radiant with long flowing auburn hair, soft hazel eyes that carried both gentleness and sadness, and a smile she wore less and less each day. She was born deaf, and though her father gave her every luxury, the best clothes, the grandest mansions, a driver to take her everywhere, he could never stop the way the world ignored her. At school, classmates whispered around her, laughed at her when she misread their lips, and excluded her from every circle of friendship. At her father's business events, where powerful men and women gathered to network and talk deals, she would sit quietly at the corner of golden tables, trying to smile, but no one would bother to sign a word or even slow down their speech. The billionaire loved his daughter in his own way, but he was consumed by the glare of power and reputation, unable to see her silent pain. One evening, during another one of his grand charity galas inside a crystal-lit ballroom, Alara sat near the edge of the hall, wearing an elegant blue dress, clutching a small notebook where she wrote down her thoughts since people rarely had the patience to listen. The crowd was alive with chatter, champagne glasses clinking, and music drifting across the air, yet Alara felt invisible, her world muted not by silence but by rejection. People passed by her as though she was a statue, their eyes darting only to admire her dress but not her soul. Some even muttered behind fans and glasses, "Such a shame, the poor thing, so much money but," and they cut their words off with pity-filled glances. Her fingers clenched around her notebook, her chest aching. That was when it happened, when someone saw her, truly saw her. It wasn't a guest, nor a businessman, nor some charming heir to a fortune. It was the janitor. A young man named David, in his early 20s, with rolled-up sleeves, a plain uniform that smelled faintly of cleaning supplies, and dark kind eyes that noticed everything others overlooked. He was sweeping the marble floor quietly, trying not to disturb the gala, when his gaze fell upon Alara sitting alone. He paused. He recognized the look in her eyes, the heavy loneliness of someone desperate to belong. Instead of turning away like the rest, David hesitated, then gently approached her table. Alara looked up, surprised, unused to anyone acknowledging her, much less someone like him. She expected the usual awkward smile and quick retreat, but then David raised his hands and began to move them, fluidly, beautifully, signing, "Are you okay?" Her eyes widened, stunned, then softened as she signed back with trembling fingers, "You know sign language?" David nodded, smiling gently, signing back, "My little sister is deaf. I learned so she would never feel left out." In that instant, her entire world lit up, brighter than the chandeliers above. For the first time all evening, maybe for the first time in weeks, someone spoke to her in her language, not out of pity, not for show, but out of genuine care. Tears shimmered in her hazel eyes as she signed, "Thank you, no one ever." And she couldn't even finish the sentence. David sat down across from her, ignoring the disapproving stares of some nearby guests who frowned at a janitor daring to sit with the billionaire's daughter. But Alara didn't care. She laughed silently, her shoulders shaking, as she told him about her drawings, her favorite books, her dream of being a writer, and David listened, truly listened, responding with kindness and encouragement. That night, in the middle of a world filled with people too blind to see her, Alara felt alive because one janitor looked past her silence and heard her heart. And that was only the beginning. Alara and David's connection grew quickly, though at first it was hidden in the corners of the estate where no one paid attention to the girl no one understood. Each morning when David came in to sweep the grand halls, Alara would find an excuse to wander nearby, pretending to look at the paintings or the garden, until she caught his eye and their silent conversations began. With his hands, David gave her laughter, with his eyes, he gave her reassurance, with his presence, he gave her a sense of worth she had been starved of for years. But in a world obsessed with wealth and appearances, not everyone was pleased. One afternoon, her father noticed his daughter laughing in the garden, signing rapidly with David. Shock rippled through the billionaire. Never had he seen her so alive, so full of light, yet all he could think was, with a janitor? That evening, he scolded Alara, his voice sharp, his words cutting. He is not your equal. He is a worker here, nothing more. You are my daughter, and you will not waste your time on someone beneath us. The words shattered her heart, and she ran to her room, tears streaking her face. But the difference now was that she had someone who wouldn't let her drown in silence. The next day, David found her sitting on the steps by the fountain, notebook closed, her face pale from crying. Without hesitation, he signed, "You deserve better than being ignored. Don't ever let anyone tell you your worth depends on their status." His sincerity burned through the walls her father and society had built around her. Slowly, Alara's sadness turned into courage. She stood taller, lifted her chin, and decided she would not remain silent anymore. At the next gala, when people once again passed her by, whispering and dismissing her, Alara suddenly stood in the center of the ballroom, notebook in hand. Her father's eyes widened as she tapped a spoon against a glass to get attention. Though she could not hear the sound, she saw the crowd turn to her. She opened the notebook, but then stopped, her hands trembling, until she saw David at the edge of the room, nodding to her, silently signing, "You can do this." And she did. She raised her hands and began to sign a speech, her interpreter, whom she insisted on hiring herself that day, translating aloud, "All my life, I have been surrounded by people who see my father's money, but not me. I have been dressed in diamonds, but starved of connection. Tonight, I want you to know something, my silence is not emptiness. My hands, my eyes, my heart, they all speak. I am not broken. I am not invisible. And I will never again allow myself to be ignored." The room fell into stunned silence, many lowering their gazes in shame. Her father, for the first time, felt tears sting his eyes as he realized how blind he had been to his own daughter's suffering. But the proudest smile in the room was David's. He clapped first, breaking the silence, and soon the room erupted in applause. From that night onward, Alara was no longer the quiet, ignored daughter of a billionaire. She was her own voice, her own strength, and by her side stood the janitor who believed in her when no one else would. And that's the story of how a girl who was ignored by everyone was finally seen by the person no one expected. If you felt moved by this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel right now, because sometimes, the people who seem the smallest can make the biggest difference in our lives.